James was completely lost in his mind, trying to find some order in the chaos that reigned in his thoughts. It was Lisa's voice that brought him back to the present. "I know it might seem strange, but I'd like to tell you a few things if you want to hear them." James looked at her. "And what do you have to say that I would want to hear?" "A perspective." James looked at her, inquisitively. She continued. "As you understand, I got caught up in this situation purely by chance." "Chance?" "Yes, and I'll explain why," she said with a sweet smile. "The night with your father was strange. I started to suspect something in the car, but only here did I realize that he didn't know anything. And then, everything that happened was at the very least strange, and I didn't fully understand. It was only last night, here in your house, sitting at the kitchen table, that I realized not just what had happened, but everything that was going on around me that I couldn't see, simply because I wasn't viewing the world from that perspective." James seemed even more confused. "My husband was here with us yesterday, until Patricia arrived, and it was when your mother finally told me what had happened. But it was my husband who offered us a perspective that opened our eyes." James continued to slowly sip his whiskey, but now with a curious and extremely attentive look. "You know, this kind of unofficial club consists of about 40 couples. Almost all our husbands are entrepreneurs, holding high positions in companies. You could say they are influential and wealthy people. Most of us wives don't even work, although some do. Others get involved in volunteer work to occupy their time, and some simply do nothing. Your mother. Well, clearly she didn't go to our meetings because they are for couples, and even if she ever wanted to come with another man, that would never be allowed. But she was kind of an unofficial member. She was one of the friends in the group, and we discussed things openly. And the truth is we used to tease her and called her the virgin of the group, but purely in jest. Deep down, we all envied the relationship and the complicity she had with your father. Well, we were also interested in your father. I think this whole atmosphere may have led your mother to imagine what it would be like to be with another man without guilt. And what we did was the ideal. There's no emotional involvement. The partners, man and woman, are chosen randomly. If there are no feelings involved, then it's just the act for fun. Surely you understand that, right?" "Of course I understand," James said. "And to be honest, it doesn't shock me. If everyone there consents to what happens, what others think or don't think is their business." "Exactly. Besides, your mother heard the stories we told about coming home after a night of sex with a different energy because, whether we like it or not, it's different when you're getting to know and revealing yourself to someone intimately for the first time, and the reunion with our husbands, the people we really want and love, and how that was absolutely explosive for both of us and how making love afterward was divine and connected us intimately. So you can imagine that your mother was listening to this, and no matter how good her life was in the bedroom with your father, there wasn't that energy. And I think your mother convinced herself that if she did this, just once, because even when she told us she would finally go to a meeting, she immediately said it would be just once, so the lucky one who had her husband could take advantage, but in this one time she wanted to bring that energy to the relationship and give herself afterward in an intimate and wonderful way to her husband. And if you had asked me yesterday, I would have said unequivocally that this makes total sense, which is why I couldn't quite understand your father's reaction, or rather, I could understand but thought the reaction was exaggerated. And what if I ask you today? If you ask me today, I'd tell you that after the conversation we had here yesterday that ended up having a conclusion at my home, I'm not going back to the club. I realized that, although my husband participates voluntarily, this whole energy thing was something I felt, but he didn't. On the contrary, it hurt him. He was only going along because he was afraid that if this didn't happen, I might end up cheating on him one day. Because he's aware of the time work takes from him, and he feels guilty for not giving me that time and attention, and he fears that someone might take his place. And I had never thought about that. That he would think that way. James looked at her, evaluating her words. "I'm not trying to excuse your mother's actions, they are what they are. But I wanted you to understand that her biggest mistake wasn't the lie, the betrayal, or the disrespect, it was her arrogance in thinking she knew what was best for both of them and acting unilaterally. But deep down, the intention wasn't to hurt your father, on the contrary, it was to offer him something more of herself. James looked at her for a long time. Then he simply said, "Thank you." Lisa nodded, realizing that he understood what she had said and hoped he at least grasped that his mother wasn't a bad or Machiavellian person, just someone who made the wrong choices for the right reasons. "I'm just going to check on your sister and your mother, and then I'll be on my way." "Sure, go ahead." Lisa went upstairs and peeked into the room. Patricia was hugging their mother, who seemed calm with her eyes closed. She went back downstairs, James walked her to the door, and she left.